Meanwhile, a rat plague is creating a menace for people in Australia. The plague has spread to tropical fishing towns in northern Australia, overwhelming the residents there who are clearing piles of dead rodents off the beach every morning. Thousands of rats, dead and alive, have swept up on the beaches in Queensland. They have reached the Gulf towns of Karumba and Normanton, harassing the pets there, clambering over boats and stripping cars of their wiring. The native long-haired rats have been steadily marching towards the coast after a bumper wet season in inland Australia, spreading hundreds of kilometres in their hunt for new crops to nibble on. A local resident in northern Australia, he took the video of these rats checking the homemade traps for them. As the plague of native rodents flooded a nearby coastal fishing village as well, and this is not the first time that the country has been plagued by rats. Mice first appeared in Australia with the arrival of Britishers in 1788. Between 1900 and 1925, there were 12 major plague outbreaks in 27 locations in Australia, and they have been introduced by infected rats from overseas ships. Recently in 2021, Australia's southern and eastern agricultural regions saw months-long plague of mice that destroyed crops and overwhelmed the farmers there.
A brief window between rainfall means this family in Somalia's capital can eat.
When it's raining, we sit outside under a tent until the rain slows down. We only come in the house when the rain slows down so that we can cook for the children.
Weeks of heavy flooding in the African country has displaced 700,000 people. The UN has described it as a once-in-a-century event.
The floods swept away everything, including our mattresses. We're really in a hard situation.
Further west of the country, villagers had been surviving on higher ground.
We climbed trees. The whole night until morning, we were beating jerry cans as a means to call for help. We put babies and the elderly in beds and on trees and slopes.
The extreme flooding is caused by the El Niño and the Indian Ocean dipole weather phenomena. And with a cyclone now building over the Indian Ocean, aid agencies are warning the worst could be yet to come. The UN estimates a quarter of Somalia's population will face crisis-level hunger or worse this year due to drought and floods, exacerbating an already existing humanitarian crisis caused by years of insurgent fighting and instability.
Before the floods even, we were talking about close to 50 million people who were food insecure in East Africa. Now we know that Somalia, Ethiopia and Kenya have just come out of one of the longest periods of drought.
An additional 3.1 million people are thought to be impacted by the floods in the region, with concerns about the spread of disease.
The people need shelter, they need medical health care, and in the immediate they also need food. And their environment has become very unhygienic.
Urgent help needed for a region facing weather extremes.
There is an exploding population of hard-to-eradicate pigs that's threatening to spill over from Canada into the US. These are no ordinary pigs. They are crossbreeds of the wild Eurasian boar. They're larger in size than normal pigs. They have a high fertility rates, earning them the tag of super pigs. But they've become a nuisance for Canadian officials. Pigs are not native to North America. And Canada's problem with these boars goes back a few decades. In the 1980s, the Canadian government encouraged farmers to raise wild pigs. But the demand for pigs collapsed in the early 2000s. The farmers became frustrated with raising the pigs and set them free. It turns out that pigs are great survivors of the Canadian winters. The furry animals have survived because they eat anything and everything, and the wild boars are notorious for damaging farms and crops. These pigs are known for spreading diseases, and they're fast at reproducing. Female pigs can have up to 12 piglets every year, which is one of the main reasons why their population is booming. There were over 60,000 wild pig sightings in Canada last year. In Canada, these pigs are spotted roaming in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. Aerial surveillance shows these pigs are now migrating south. They will soon enter the U.S. states of Minnesota, North Dakota, and Montana. And American officials are scrambling to prevent the invasion. The population numbers of these super pigs is so massive that even hunting them will not help. According to experts, even if 65% of the super pig population is killed every year, their total population will still continue to rise. And the success rate for hunters is not high enough to make hunting a viable option. Experts say that the more the pigs are hunted, the smarter they become at hiding. Canadian officials believe the eradication of super pigs is no longer possible. But American officials are slightly more hopeful. They have a few tricks up their sleeve to keep the wild pigs away. They're betting on large-scale ground traps. Nets will be fired from helicopters to capture herds. This would be done by installing trackers on the pigs, so that they can be hurtled into areas where the traps are in place. Experts say that the only way to control the pigs is by thinking out of the box. Focus on controlling their movement so that these super pigs do not get a foothold in the US.
Garissa, once a bustling hub on the border with Somalia, is at the mercy of nature. The Mwingi-Garissa Road, a vital link to Nairobi, was submerged and now lies in ruins.
The flooding started at 10 p.m. We spent the whole night here. We were traveling from Nairobi and got stuck here. Now that the water has receded, we are trying to help the others cross so we can go together.
Fruit seller Fatma Hassan Gumo says her family of 12 was forced to flee at night as flash floods submerged her village near the Tarna River.
The waters ruined everything, including my house. It rained from the morning to night. By 8 p.m., we had to pack and flee.
Crops, roads, homes, schools, and hospitals were all affected by the flash flooding, displacing tens of thousands of people and forcing them into temporary displacement camps.
And we have currently, we did the first assessment, around 19,800 households, which translates to around 115,000 persons affected. And that means the entire country, there are villages currently submerged, which needs airdrops for food.
With more rain expected in the coming weeks and the water level on the Tarna River continuing to rise, Kenyans are concerned. They face an uncertain future.